Broadcasting on SpiceFM. We are online across the globe, and we are also now on KTN Home for the next 1 hour. We have CT Muga in the studio, and we also have the ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. We'll introduce him shortly. CT, today's proverb, the one for today.
Today's proverb, the one for today.
Yeah.
It says this:
Uh-huh.
a man who pays respect to the great paves his own way for his own greatness.
Okay.
Yes.
And then now you have one for tomorrow.
Of course, I have one for tomorrow.
Good.
And not only one for tomorrow, so that the man from Kimilili can rest assured that his interest is taken care of.
Bas. Finally.
Yes.
Okay. Edwin Sifuna,
Yes.
thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the
Asante
Situation
sana.
Room.
It's always a pleasure, Eric.
Good to have you again.
Yeah. Good that you invited me again. There's a lot of fear in political circles coming to the Situation Room.
Fear of?
Fear.
Yeah, after what you have done to one of our colleagues.
Oh, I thought it was fear of Mombasa Road.
No, it has nothing
That's
to
a
do
little
with
word with big connotations.
yeah, it is fear. You know, it is very difficult to defend lies. And it has been said that lies are the stock of politicians. So you will find a lot of excuses and apologies why people don't come to your show. But for me, really, you can do to me as you please. I will still come back.
You have no lies to
You
tell.
have no lies to
it-
tell.
I have no lies to tell.
You are
Only
an
the
open book.
Hapa ni truth and facts shall set you free. And that is all I have come with.
Right.
Very good. Secretary General of ODM, the Orange Democratic Movement Party, chama cha baba.
Chama cha wananchi si cha baba. Unajua ushuru yenu ndiye inalipa kusustain ODM.
Yes.
Sasa hiyo ni chama yenu.
You receive a lot of money from the taxpayers.
I wouldn't say it's a lot, but it's substantial.
Kenyans will say it's a lot. How much did you receive in the last tranche that you received?
I think the last financial year we got about 220 million
Okay.
out of our total entitlement of about 1.2 billion shillings. Because
Total
it is-
entitlement of ODM
Yes,
or of NASA?
of ODM. Because the law says that Treasury must set aside 0.3% of government revenue for purposes of a political party's fund. So if that were complied with and you calculate what is due to ODM, we are supposed to be receiving at least 1.2 billion shillings each year.
Okay.
But we have never hit that. Even the court case, the court award, the 4 billion, they only paid us 200 million. So at that rate, it will take about 20 years for us to receive the full complement of the 4 billion.
So what
but
do
we
you do with that
understand.
money?
Oh, there's a lot of programs that we run as political parties. You know, one of our key performance indicators is that we are supposed to have offices countrywide. So as I speak to you today, I'm a very proud SG because we now have 42 county offices that are fully paid for from the political parties fund. The next step was now to go into the constituency offices. We receive a lot of complaints from our members and supporters that they would like devolution of even party services so that the National Secretariat is not the only place you can go for if you want services from a party, including life membership applications and so on and so forth. We are supposed to do programs such as, outreach, identification of candidates, especially women and youth and persons with disabilities. We have set up a training program for the women aspirants. And I wish these things were available for us, Latif, when we were starting politics. That in fact, there are things that people take for granted. That you need certain trainings before you get into politics. How to set up your campaign teams, how to speak, the issues you identify when you speak to, even how to dress. I mean, these are things that have an implication on politics. So there's a lot of things to do in terms of providing platforms for young people to join politics, providing platforms for women to join politics, and all these things require money. So I am very proud. If you look at our audited accounts for the past 15 years, ODM has received clean audits because the way that we spend public money is something that you can review.
All right.
And these reports are submitted to Parliament as well. And we have never had questions regarding our accounts.
Before we get into the conversation that we want to have today, which is the plans
Yes.
for ODM 2022 elections,
Yeah.
you've actually raised a very important point, which I'm sure very many people listening and watching this show today will benefit from
Yes.
understanding. When a political party, say, receives this money
Yes.
from the political party's fund,
Yes.
does it draw the money from a budget that it has set? Is
Yeah.
this budget, first of all, approved by the party and then approved by any another organ, say the Register of Political Parties?
Yes, absolutely. First, we have, these leagues in the party: the Women League, the Disability League, the Youth League. They prepare work plans each year. Those work plans are then approved by the NEC, and they form part of the party's budget. And then that budget has to be submitted to the Register of Political Parties for us to draw the money from the office of the Register of Political Parties. So she can then follow up and see that the things that you budgeted for are the exact things that you spend money on. One of the complaints that we've been receiving when we've been going around is, the quality of our sound system. For instance, we had budgeted for that last year, but we were not able to receive the money that we had anticipated. So it becomes very difficult because these things are a stretch. You have meetings in counties, like right now, we have proposed to our county chairs that they have scaled down meetings because we are in the political season. It is not no longer sustainable for us to just stay off and say we are in the COVID season. Yet we can see our competitors are running. So we have proposed to them to hold meetings like the ones we do at Chungu House of a maximum of 50 people where you can put up a tent in an open space and continue to have those meetings. So regularly you will see requests coming from the counties. Like yesterday we were processing a request from Bungoma. They would like to have, they have a new office. They would like to have furniture in that office. They would like to have regular meetings of the Youth League, the Women League in all the 9 constituencies in Bungoma. That is how your money is spent, to provide these opportunities for political processes to continue within the party and even to provide platforms for young women, especially young women. I don't know why when people talk about women empowerment, they have a certain age of women in mind.
Maendeleo ya wanawake.
Maendeleo ya wanawake types, and we would like to encourage young women to be able to also to participate in politics. And Latif, you are not going to be able to address the final rally at Uhuru Park on the last day of campaigns, if you have never spoken to a room of 10 people, So we create these capacities for young women to address 10 people in their ward. Then in the presence of the party leadership, you can be able to say, who is that young man who spoke, or that young lady who spoke in Changamwe? She appears to have the right stuff, and if she's supported, is somebody that can produce leadership. This is how people like Millie Odhiambo have come through the ranks in the party. They were first identified, given party nominations. Now they were able to compete and win the ticket of a party in single constituencies, and they're now legislators duly elected by people. So this is what your money does.
And it's also audited by the Auditor General.
It is audited by the Auditor General. I want to say here that the political parties fund, first of all, does not allow for payment of salaries from that money to officials of the party. So like Sifuna does not receive money from the political parties fund. Others say,
That
this
money
is
only
for,
goes-
yeah,
that's-
that is illegal. It is prohibited. So like for me, the party provides what they call facilitation for my movement. So they'll give me fuel if I'm going to Kisumu or a ticket. That money comes from members' contributions purely because our members also contribute money to the party. So I don't touch the political party's fund as an official. But if you are an employee of the party, like our executive director, the directors of membership, registration, and so on and so forth, those ones it's okay for you to pay. So you can come to my office. I can show you a schedule of the monies that are applied to party offices across the county, party programs, the Women League, the Youth League, the Disability League, and so on and so forth. And the last thing I want to say is there is a requirement under the political parties fund that 30% of that money must be spent in programs for women, youth, and disability. So they draw up their own programs, the Youth League, the Women League. You can see they are all over the country running their own programs that have been approved by NEC in accordance with their work plans that they prepare each year. Yeah.
This is interesting because it seems as though there's a thread of accountability that is running through this. So the end product, when you have whoever it may be, MCAs, members of county assemblies, members of parliament, come from this party essentially, then does that thread of accountability, is it not expected that the thread of accountability will then run through until the end product? And can you keep track of
It is
that
expected.
even after the fact?
It is expected, but as you can see, we are discussing a specific regime of law that governs conduct and running of the affairs of the political parties. So there are laws to govern the conduct of, for instance, the operation of the CDF, all the other monies that these elected officials then handle. There's the NGAF fund, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund for the women reps. There is a set of accountability under those laws. So the person who enforces accountability is not the party that elected you. It is the laws of the country and the organizations that are there. For us as a party, we are audited by two institutions, the auditor of the Office of the Auditor General and the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So I cannot lie to her. For instance, if I tell her that there is an office in Kirinyaga, she on her own accord should be able to go and ascertain that actually there's an office in Kirinyaga and this is where Sifuna sends the money to. Yeah.
42 county offices. How many constituency or sub-county offices do you have as a party? This is a party that has been in office, in existence since 2015.
Yeah, so the problem has been, Latif, that we have not had the resources to be able to put up the constituency offices. Even when we started this project of the county offices, it was on a pilot basis that, in fact, we expected the county offices to be used as launching pads for now to open constituency offices. I will give you the figure. We spent 50,000 shillings on each of those 42 county offices. That is 2 million shillings a month. That is about 24 million shillings a year. If you look at 24 million shillings out of the 200 million shillings that we receive, that's almost 10% of the money just going to the county offices. So if we were receiving the full complement of the political parties fund, it would be very easy for me to have offices in all the 290 constituencies. And even this 50,000 that we sent is not sufficient. It is just for the physical building, to pay rent, to pay the outgoings, and probably have one or two people working the grounds or as office admins. There are other needs that the counties require that we are not able to satisfy at the moment. So, which is why we were having a discussion with some of our friends, and I was telling them, back then, this party used to depend on people's benevolence, that, I am an aspirant in Kamkunji constituency, I go and open an office and paint it. And then when I am disgruntled with the party, I've lost the ticket, it is painted the colors of another political party. So I said, when I presented this to the National Executive Committee, and I said, we will no longer depend on people's benevolence. We are a party that receives resources from the public. So the expectation is that nobody should go and claim they have opened an office in Karachuonyo on their own. And then who will staff that office? Because I need my officials to be the ones staffing that office. So, which is why you have seen sometimes we run into disputes with people who claim, we are only popularizing the party. We want to help the party. Even if you want to help the party, it has to be done in a coordinated fashion. You have to inform us as the National Secretariat so that I know that there is an office painted ODM somewhere in Kianyaga or in Kieni or in Runyenjes. You can't just wake up and open an office and paint it. Even you guys here at Spice, if you heard that there's somebody who has opened a branch of SpiceFM somewhere in Budalangi, you would be alarmed because you need to be able to know.
So what causes this? Is this a lack of understanding of the party structures, or is it a lack of party structures?
No, the structures are there.
For example, Jimmy Wanjigi you have had a run-in with Jimmy Wanjigi.
Yes.
He's even written to you officially, and it's been published.
Yes.
On this particular issue, we want to support the party. I'm a life member of this party, and I'm going somewhere and I find there's no party office. So we said, let's establish a party office.
Yeah, you see, this is the point that I am addressing. First of all, we want to move away from benevolence. Because at the end of the day, this goodwill of yours is not something that we can, depend on to last forever. Because when that goodwill goes, what happens to the office? Number two, you can't independently open it. As the National Secretariat, we should be able to know, I am required to maintain a register of assets of a party.
Yep.
This is one of the things that I am audited on. Sifuna, can you show me the register of the assets of a party? If a party asset, even if you have a list on an office, that is something you should list as an asset. So if somebody opens an office without reference to my secretariat, I cannot recognize that office as a party office. Number two, the people who man the office, the office is not a building. It's the way they say that church is not a building. It is the people who...
It's a congregant.
It's a congregant. So if you are going to open an office in Runyenjes, and you don't tell me that now you can send the officials of a party, who are the elected officials of a party, to man that office. You want to run your own parallel party delegates or party officials. That's not something we can allow. So we are saying, please keep your benevolence. If you will not, run it through us or run it in cooperation with us, and you find that it is too restrictive for you, that's the way you are writing me long letters about other things. Why is it difficult to do one line and say, Sifuna, we are opening an office in Runyenjes? You're sending me entire love letters. But you can't write to me and tell me that your intention is to open an office in Karachonyo. That is being dishonest. It is just being dishonest. His intention is not to support the party. He has ulterior intentions that he will tell us about when the time is right.
What do you suspect those are?
I don't know. Because,
What makes you think they're ulterior intentions?
Because, Latif, I've given you an example. If you want to support the party, you want to open party offices where you feel there are no party offices. I've conceded that I only have county offices that I'm paying for.
Yeah.
And the intention was then, when the resources are more, we are able to open the constituency offices.
Yeah.
So that we move away from individual benevolence, right? So if you want to support the party, what is the difficulty in alerting us and saying, I would like to do this office here and here? You can as well, for instance, if you have you want to open an office in a constituency in Kakamega, and that constituency is the one hosting my county office. So you find there are parallel offices here. One is here, the other one is here. Those are problematic issues that should be able to be ironed out between the person donating and the receiver of the donation.
Number two, I was asking the question.
Number two, you
are
claim
there structures in your party on where the branches are going to be, how many people
the
should
structures
be served
are
by a
there.
branch, and the opening of establishment of new offices. Are there structures?
The structures are there, Latif. ODM is the most organized political party. You can take this to the bank. We have elections that start at the polling station. So at each polling station, we have an executive committee of 20 people who are ODM officials at that polling station. When they move from there, they elect the ward officials. So in each of the wards, there is an executive committee of 20 people that has representation of youth, women, persons with disabilities, and so on and so forth. So there's a chairman, there's a representative of women. The structures are there. Then from the ward, you come to the constituency, which is called the branch executive committee. So in each of the 290 constituencies, there is an executive committee. And then you come to the county, there's a county coordinating committee that now coordinates all the constituencies in each county. Then you come to the national level. So we have structures there. So in the absence of cooperation and coordination with these people, then you are essentially running a parallel party. So we have individuals who are members of this party, who understand the structure of a party, who are willing to work with existing structures. And then there are people who now want to come and work outside that process. And the funny bit is, City, for instance, you hear somebody say they want to be a presidential candidate of a party. And when you look at our rules, we are allowed 4 ways to pick candidates for each seat. So when you sign up, you subscribe to a political party, you subscribe to its rules and its constitution. We are bound by those rules and the constitution. Then if the constitution of the party says there are 4 ways, you can have a delegate system, you can have direct ticket that is backed by science, you can have a consensus. If there's 3 of us, we sit and agree, and then there is that direct universal suffrage. It is also a method that is acceptable. Then an individual comes and says, I subscribe to these rules, but I will only insist on a direct ticket. That is somebody with an ulterior motive.
So is it that he has presented himself for the presidency? Is it that he has presented himself for that nomination that is the sticky issue, or that he did not follow procedure?
No, first of all, he has not presented himself for the presidential ticket. Jimmy Wanjigi is not a candidate for the party's presidential ticket.
He's a member
because
of the party.
when we opened the process, there were only 2 applicants, and they are known. So he has presented a request that I will submit to the National Executive Committee in the next 2 weeks, that process be reopened so that he can apply.
He's a member of the party.
He is a member of the party. He joined about 2 years ago. So he has made a request.
2 years?
Yes.
He said he's a life member.
Yeah, he's a life member, but his life started 2 years
In
ago.
2018.
Yes. So the point I wanted to make is this. So all these processes you say you subscribe to, but then you come and dictate and say, no, for my case, I only want universal suffrage, or I only want direct ticket.
But Edwin,
is
that dictating, or is that showing preference?
It is dictating, because at the end of the day, you have subscribed to a list, a buffet. So what you do is you allow the party, you allow your other the new opponents. You can be insisting that you want a universal suffrage, but the opponents have all agreed that it is you. We want to give you a direct ticket. So you need to be patient. Number 2, if you want to know that somebody is genuine, Latif, if for instance we are looking for the chairman of Standard Group Reporters Association, and the rules require that you canvass votes amongst the reporters who work at Standard Group, then you find somebody canvassing for votes amongst mango farmers in Kilifi. Is that somebody who wants to be the chairperson of
Explain. Okay.
I will explain. So
Explain.
somebody comes and they say they want to be the presidential candidate of a party,
Right.
and they want to go to Kasarani for the delegates conference. And you look at the rules of a party, and it shows you who the delegates who go to Kasarani are. It's, the people who constitute the delegates. It's members of parliament. It is members of NEC like Sifuna. It is governors elected on the party's ticket. Yeah, those are the delegates. But then you find somebody.
Does the list end there?
I am telling you
NEC,
that is where the list.
MPs,
that is the list.
governors.
It doesn't end there. Those are the examples I'm giving you.
Who else
So
constitute delegates?
there's the members of standing committees of a party. So if you are in the legal affairs committee or in the disciplinary committee, those are the people who constitute the bulk of the delegates who go to Kasarani. Then you find somebody addressing
Are
a
there
market.
no delegates that are selected from all these other branches that you talked about?
Yeah,
From
the
board
branch
level?
chairman, like the branch chairman are part of the delegates. Those are 290
Okay.
out of the 3,000.
And branch chairmen are elected by members.
Yes, they are elected by members.
There you
Yeah,
go.
but they are existing branch chairmen as we speak today, Latif. So you would ordinarily expect that if somebody is canvassing for votes, he asks Sifuna, can I have the list of branch chairmen so that I go and have a meeting with them? Then I will give you the list. Can I have your parliamentary group contacts? I want to speak to them because they are delegates. But if you find somebody at a rally in Homa Bay,
Yes.
those are not people who are going to determine the presidential candidate, then that person is not looking for the presidential ticket of a party. That is the point I'm making.
Okay, I think that the point that you're making is one part of a point. But
What is the
also,
other part?
There's the other part of a point that if you want to be president, then you also want to popularize your campaign. Such that by the time even the delegates are coming to Kasarani or wherever these delegates are going to
Yeah,
meet,
but there
if
are
you're going
things.
to take them
There
to
are
Uhuru
things.
Park, wherever,
There are things that
the delegates
precede
will already
the-
be knowing that the membership of this party is skewing and leaning towards
Latif,
this particular
there are
candidate.
things that
And they need to
precede.
represent the wishes of the membership
There
of
are
the party.
things that precede others. So, if, for instance, your wife is pregnant, you haven't ascertained the sex of the baby. Why are you buying boy clothes or girl outfits?
I can start buying
Why?
a baby cot.
Why?
I can start buying a baby cot.
The point.
I can start buying
Yeah,
diapers.
but at the
Those
end
are
of the day, that's
those
what
are
I'm saying.
obvious.
There are things that precede
A
others.
baby will come.
There are things that precede
A baby
others.
will need to be in a baby cot.
I understand. I
So,
am telling you.
Similarly, Edwin, I know I have a confidence that I'm going to win the ODM ticket for presidential nomination. So I am already also selling my agenda to the people. I'm not seeing what the problem here is.
No. I think there are things that precede others. And even under the law, there is a reason why party nominations come before the official period of campaign. That in fact, the IEBC requires that you conclude your nominations, hand in the what is it called? The list of your aspirants. Then
Yeah.
they say, okay, now you go and canvass for votes.
We'll have a conversation, continue this conversation after the break. We're having a conversation with Edwin Sifuna, the ODM Secretary General. Very many things. So how is ODM positioning for the 2022 general election? We've basically just started on that issue of the presidential flag bearer, how you're going to select one.
Yeah.
We'll come back and continue to that. And then we'll talk about the others and how you shall make sure that you get more members into the National Assembly, more members in the Council of Governors,
Absolutely.
more members in the county assemblies as well.
Absolutely.
Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga. Our guest today, Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement Party. We're talking about the party and its positioning for 2022. You were telling us about, what's happening now with the journey, if we shall ever conclude this journey of selecting a presidential torchbearer for the party.
Yeah.
You started a couple of months ago. You opened the process. You said you've closed it. You reopened.
We didn't reopen.
It's closed.
Yeah, it's closed.
So now we only have two candidates who are seeking the party's nomination.
It
for
is closed,
president.
but we have received a request from Jimmy.
Okay.
Which request I will put to NEC, and NEC can decide what to do with that request. They can decide to reopen it.
So we have who are the two? that applied?
It was Governor Oparanya and Governor Joe, who are the two deputy party leaders.
The deputy party leaders.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy Wanjege, who is a member of the party since
Has
2018, has made a request.
Yes.
Jimmy Wanjege is now going around the country and is popularizing his campaign. You're saying you have issues with the way he's approaching that campaign.
Correct.
We saw Jimmy Wanjege going to Nyanza over the weekend.
Yeah.
And he was in the news because apparently he was pelted with stones from some members of the crowd.
Yeah.
Was this something that the party felt was undeserving of him, or was the party aware that Jimmy Wanjege was going to Nyanza?
No, first of all, my office was not aware that he was going to Nyanza. But it's not as if making me aware is like seeking my permission. You don't need to seek anybody's permission to travel anywhere in this country. And that is why we roundly condemned what happened in Migori. Migori is a very interesting county because we have asked ourselves the question, Wanjigi was in Kisumu, nothing happened to him. He was in Homa Bay, nothing happened to him. Mm-hmm. He got to Migori and somehow something happened to him. Now, I say Migori is interesting because it's not the first time that members of a party or even senior party officials have faced very serious violence in Migori. You will remember there was a time where our deputy party leader, Hassan Joho, his motorcade was actually shot at, and one of his security men was actually shot in the leg. Professor Nyong'o, if you ask Professor Governor Nyong'o his experience in Migori, it was terrible. And these are things that are documented. So we think that it is, and I have spoken to the leadership of a party in Migori, Chairman Makabongo, and every indication is that it is the same terror networks that operate within the political space in Migori that are responsible for this. Latif, we operate in a very interesting political space. That in fact, yesterday was the International Day of Peace, and I was telling people, ODM is painfully aware of this tag of violence that is hanging over our heads, and there's people who are intent in making sure that tag sticks to us. But we have had recent confessions, even from some of our opponents like Sonko, to the sort of nefarious things that they were up to in the bid to paint ODM as a violent party. He told us. And these are things that we understand, that there are people who are intent on having that tag hang over us. They plan for things. Some of them set themselves up. They throw stones at themselves, or arrange for other people to throw the stones at themselves, or other people to arrange for the stoning to happen in places where it will be said that this is an ODM stronghold and this is something that is attributed to ODM. So I was not surprised that some of our opponents were quick to attribute the violence to ODM. Nobody in ODM is interested in stoning Jimmy Wanjigi. What does it even achieve? We have condemned violence because we have been subject to that violence ourselves. You remember Raila Odinga was stoned just recently in Githurai. We don't want that sort of rubbish. We believe that politics is persuasion, Latif, that in fact everybody should be allowed to canvass for votes everywhere. And, if you don't feel like the person speaking or holding a rally is speaking to you or to your needs, don't go there. Just don't attend those meetings. Leave him to run around town alone.
But Migori County is actually very unique when it comes to the way they've conducted their politics. And it didn't just begin with ODM.
Yeah.
Even in the days when KANU reigned supreme, there is a situation where their councillors within the days of councillors, not MCAs, voted in a certain direction. And they had to vacate Migori and go to Tanzania.
Yeah.
Because, yes, and they stayed in Tanzania for a while. There are people who didn't quite agree with them. So, one could argue it's an independence of mind.
So Migori has independence of mind.
Yeah, but must it be violent?
But that independence does not have to be violent.
Must it
That's
be violent?
What I'm saying.
Maybe violence is actually not the majority. There's a minority that does not agree with this independence of mind.
I agree with you. In fact, Latif, many of the people of Migori are very good people. They are very peaceful people. But I have told you that there are terror networks that operate within the political space there. They are called Sangwenyas. They have a name.
But Edwin, terror networks have to be funded.
I absolutely agree.
It's a business.
I agree.
Spreading terror, hooliganism, thugism, it's a business.
So who benefits from it?
No, who funds it? Let's start from there.
Which is why, Latif, we asked the police, because this is something that is very easy to ascertain. it is very easy to follow the money and ascertain the people who fund this thing. So up to today, I've not heard from the police, but we are hoping that they take this matter seriously, because if you don't nip it in the bud, and we're entering into the political season, it will become fashionable. It started in Githurai. We saw one instance where Gideon Moi was supposed to visit some elders somewhere. and somebody sponsored youth to block his path.
Yep.
And then it came to, Githurai. Raila Odinga's motorcade was pelted with stones. We saw some incidents even involving William Ruto. He was to attend some church somewhere, and things turned ugly.
What about the by-election?
Yeah, even the by-elections, these by-elections involve me directly. I like to push pain to the back of my brain.
Right.
I don't want to experience what I went through in Matungu again and what I went through in Bonchari.
Edwin, even as you're trying to shed, even as the party is trying to shed this clear negative image of the violence, I mean, there has been that tag has been there for some time. Even as that is trying to happen, you're trying to make that happen. Looking at the structure that you've talked about, I think the words you use are the most organized party in the country, right? How far then does this organization go to the things that matter to Kenyans today? As the most organized party in the country, obviously there's a wherewithal that you have, and you have big real estate in the minds of Kenyans, right?
Yes.
When we look at the things that matter to Kenyans today, how far is this party going to ensure through your representatives, because in as much as they're the people's representatives, they're representatives of a party at the legislation level.
Yes.
How far are you making sure, or what kind of messages are you pushing through to make sure that the people that matter are being represented, that have the ODM tag?
No, I think we can be very proud of the ODM parliamentary group generally, especially in this time where there has been some freedom and leeway in parliament, because we all know the difficulty that we faced in the first term, that in fact we needed to resort to physicality to even protect the things that are dear to Kenyans. You will recall the incident of the passage of the security amendment laws, where we had to,
pour water,
be physical in defending your rights. So sometimes when you ask us these questions, we tend to wonder whether you forget all the things that members of this party have literally put their lives on the line. If you speak to Millie Odhiambo on the incidents on that day, it is terrible. After the laws were passed, Kimabavu, the way that they were, it is ODM then, in coalition with NASA, that went to court again to ensure that we rolled back that, that tide. Absolutely. In this current parliament, I am very proud, by the way, of the performance of some of our members, especially after our friends in Jubilee ceded some of the leadership positions, whether it is Florence Muthui at education, dealing with the question of university fees, whether it is Gladys Wanga at finance, looking at the budget proposals and saying we cannot tax baby formula and bread and the others. These are things that they know. They say a leopard does not change its spots. Within ourselves as ODM, within our constitution, who we are, there are certain things that we know for sure. You don't have to be told.
Edwin, since you brought up this discussion of their participation, tell us about the ODM legislators' participation in these issues that are now raging regarding fuel.
Now, this is a beautiful question, and I knew you would ask me. Now, on the question of taxation, on the question of taxation, we have to be honest with each other and look at the original scene. Why are the taxes where they are today? I'm telling you the truth. Because if you look at the current, for instance, regime of taxation on fuel and the conditions that were put upon the nation by the IMF in order for us to receive further loans to cushion the economy from the ravages of COVID, it is something that you have to go back to the original scene. The biggest problem we have is a problem of debt. So we are taking up debt, and these financiers and donors are looking for where their money is going to come from. When we lend you this money, how are you going to be able to pay back? So the conditions they put on a loan, when you are between a rock and a hard place, you need money to spur economic growth, to deal with your state-owned operations and enterprises like KQ that are facing financial ruin. You go to IMF, you say, I need 200 million shillings, $200 million. They tell you, okay, you are going to have to remove this equation of zero rating and the tax exemption on certain things. So as a legislature, you are stuck with that question. how are we going to get this money without the pinch?
All right.
And it is not possible.
So the origin of this scene
Yes.
is debt.
The origin is debt. And if you
And
look
getting
at
to a point
Yeah.
where Parliament allowed the executive to borrow more by raising the debt
The debt
ceiling.
ceiling.
I don't think that is true. By the time that the debt ceiling was being proposed to be raised,
Yes.
the debt was already on
The
our
debt
books.
was already on our
Yes.
books, and it
in
was already
fact,
at that
in
point.
fact, it is at that point. Eric, you can go to the figures and you can give me the figures. You are the facts guy. What is the debt that we had prior to the raising of the ceiling? I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And what is there subsequent to that? You know? Because the problem was we were taking up debt on infrastructure, large infrastructure projects that were not necessarily giving back to the economy. We spoke loudly against this SGR development, and my friend Jimmy has explained it better, that in fact the initial conception of the SGR under the Grand Coalition government had nothing to do with public funds. It was supposed to be a private, it was a PPP, like the road that is being built, the expressway that is being built out here, and that it was to run all the way from Nairobi to Mombasa to Malaba. That would then make economic sense, and even the other countries would support us in that venture.
Yeah.
So
okay, you're right.
we as ODM,
From the moment ODM
Yes.
joined the opposition
Yes.
in 2013, debt was coming from the Grand Coalition government. Debt was at 1.7 trillion shillings
Yes.
or thereabouts.
yes,
Through these 2 terms of this current regime,
talk about the first term debt.
debt has been rising.
Yes,
Now, let's talk about the first term debt and even the second term. Before Parliament was requested and it accepted to raise the debt ceiling,
Yes.
there was already debt rising.
yes,
But Parliament was passing every budget that was being brought to it without question. And members of ODM are not on record as having voted no to the finance bill.
I don't think you can say that it was without question, because if you follow parliamentary proceedings, questions on those budgets are asked, including the examples that I've given you on some of the proposals for raising of revenue
Yep.
in the current budget. You saw Mheshimiwa Gladys Wanga removing the question of taxation on motorcycles, for instance, and motorcycle parts, because it says it was going to affect the people who deal in border and the others. So you cannot say that it was without question. I am proud, Latif, the chair of what is this committee, Public Accounts Committee, who is a member of ODM. He has sponsored a bill to actually require that now, if government needs to borrow anything beyond 1 billion, the actual borrowing, forget about the ceiling, the actual borrowing, it has to be brought before Parliament for approval. This is not something that exists.
Yeah, it's a good bill by Opiyo, and
So
allow me to take you back to that issue.
The one thing I want to request,
By the time every year budget is being presented to Parliament, yes, there are questions that are raised at committee stage, but the underlying recommendation is let's pass this.
no, that's not true.
The underlying recommendation of the budget
That's not
committees-
true. I've given you examples of proposals that did not pass.
I'm saying the budget committee, the underlying, when it comes and says, yes, we have received the budget policy statement, we have 1 or 2 questions, but Mr. Speaker, sir, we have voted yes. Let's pass
No.
this.
I don't think that is true. I have given you specific instances where proposals came from Treasury that were turned down by that same committee. So it is not true that there is
I think we're
an
not
understanding that we must
understanding each
pass
other.
it. At the end of the day, Latif,
At the end of it,
yeah,
there will be a recommendation from even this Gladys Wanga committee. Yes, even after saying let's amend this, and the other, they will come and say let's pass it.
but the budget
let's
has to
pass.
be passed.
Let's pass
in
this particular
in the
one.
No,
fo-
that's
has
the
to
point.
be-
It doesn't have to be
It
passed.
has to be passed.
No, it doesn't.
The
No,
law
it-
requires that you have a budget, and
Shakil,
there are
yes.
timelines for that budget.
It's true.
So what happens in the absence of a budget,
No.
City? What happens?
Look, let the
You
fund-
can cut everything out of
Yes.
it, but the budget has to be there, even if
Eric,
it is for 1 shilling.
Eric, let the functions of the government grind to a halt. If you have a budget, yes, but we've seen it happen in other parts of the world where people don't agree on the forward movement of a budget until they agree.
You do not have to pass the budget as presented.
No,
Not
you don't.
as presented. I think that is where we are.
There is no point.
That is where
There's
we are.
no
we
point
are not
where the
agreeing.
National Assembly has been asked by the government, we want to spend 2 trillion shillings, and they said no.
No.
Spend 1.2.
Latif.
But the thing is
Latif.
that this budget usually
No,
is
no.
passed. It's
You-
usually
you-
passed
you-
as has been presented.
No.
Regardless of
That is
whether
not
or not,
factual.
regardless of whether or not there have been questions that have come up about it.
So, Edwin,
No.
what's factual?
That is not factual.
What is
I have
factual?
given you specific examples
Yes.
Where
of
people have raised
revenue-raising
issues.
measures
Yes,
that were
you-
proposed in the
yes,
budget
yes.
and were removed by Parliament.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
cannot say that it was passed as is. I am saying that it is passed with amendments. Even the current budget was passed with amendments.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true. But those amendments, are they, do they have proper effect or do they not?
You speak.
you an
You
example.
speak to the bread manufacturers. You speak to the people who buy bread.
Let me give you an
You
example.
speak to the people who are in the
Edwin,
We have
motorcycle
had-
industry.
we
They
have
effect.
hosted a
They have
member of the
effect.
finance committee, Shakil Shabir, here, and he has been sitting in the finance committee for a number of terms. He told us, for example, when the issue of raising the debt ceiling was brought, one of the conditions that was set by the committee was you must give us the debt register as Parliament. That is on previous financial year. Then they said that's a condition for raising the debt ceiling. So yes, we can see the sense that you're making. You are already at this position that you have borrowed a lot of commercial debt and you need to regularize this debt. So raise the debt ceiling so that you can play around with the figures. The next financial year, the National Treasury comes back to Parliament. In fact, even before the next financial year, in a couple of months, it comes back to Parliament with a supplementary budget. But members of Parliament do not go back and say, we gave you a condition, open the debt register, and you have not. So we are not going to approve your supplementary budget.
Yes.
We haven't seen that.
So I will
And that's why
refer.
I say-
I'll refer you to the comments of Honorable James Orengo yesterday, when he admitted that in fact Parliament as an institution, there are areas in which they have failed. For instance,
Areas.
the example that he has given, there are areas that they have failed. I mean,
And
they
the
are-
one
oversight.
they have not been 100%.
Edwin,
And he conceded yesterday. He said,
I have to ask
he
this
said
question.
it is going to be the weakest parliament that he has seen. And you know, Orengo has been around.
Yeah.
So
He has.
I am personally, I'm not a member of parliament.
True, you're not.
He is a senior member of the party, and he was making the point that, in fact, this is not a question of political parties. It is a question of parliament as an institution.
Yeah.
That in fact, there are certain expectations that, examples that Latif is giving, that they have fallen short of. I mean,
You know, when a senior member of parliament, a senior member of the party, states the obvious, okay? Are we supposed to clap and cheer him for telling us something the
that's
entire nation knows about? No.
that's not what we expect you to do.
What I thank him for
Yeah.
is being bold enough to say, folks, I'm part of this whole setup and we really have failed, okay?
You're able to
Agreed.
see what everybody else is seeing.
But let's leave failure aside. What have they succeeded in doing? Because the reason we vote our parliamentarians in is so that they can do things, they can achieve things. These things that they have done, given the demons and the difficulties that we are confronting right now in this country, what are these things that they have done that we can say, you know, this one, it'll help us going forward? Because the refusal is not something punitive. It's not as though they want to stick it in the eye of the executive. No. Part of their function is to check the executive, and this executive isn't checked.
Yeah, okay. It is something that is conceded that we have problems with the current system, this so-called presidential system. It is conceded that it's not working for us. It was a conversation that, you know, has been raging even during the BBI process. There were ways in which people were looking to see how we can then make the legislature more effective. In the first term of Jubilee, and I will keep referring you to this, there was a complaint that members who were elected on Jubilee party then felt that they were part of the executive, instead of realizing that as legislators, the Constitution has placed upon them that legislative duty, oversight duty, to be able to hold the executive to account. The constitutional measures that have been put in order for the legislature to effectively check the executive were effectively neutered in the first term. So
Yes, they were.
there was no possibility of impeachment, let alone of the president, even of a member of the cabinet. You remember the fiasco with Waiguru, where a member of parliament was supposed to present a motion. Then there was a story involving a hotel somewhere and other characters that I don't want to go into.
That was a retreat.
There was a retreat. Yes. So, I mean, we used to ask ourselves in the first term, what is it that the executive would do so that these people could take action? There was all the questions of all the court orders that had been disobeyed. You know, there was all sorts of, executive overreach. during that first term. And we were asking ourselves, these are the things that the Constitution says Parliament should be able to act. But the members during that time, they used to call themselves the tyranny of numbers, were riding roughshod over everyone, and they neutered it. So it is a conceded fact that, in fact, the institution of Parliament has not been up to the task. And there are various reasons and explanations for it. So instead of mourning, City, we had proposed some changes here and there.
Edwin, this isn't
We had proposed some
it's
changes.
accountability.
Yeah, but
Let's take a break. We've been live on KTN Home for the last 1 hour. Thank you very much for tuning in to KTN Home. We continue the conversation on SpiceFM. Nairobi 94.4, 87.9, Mombasa 102.5 in Kisumu. In Nakuru 96.0, Malindi 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, and Eldoret it's 96.7. ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna is here. We are talking about ODM's preparations for 2022 and also taking stock of how ODM has performed in the last... How many years have you been in existence? Since 2015. How many years are those?
yes, about since 2005.
2005,
So
yes.
it's about
16
16 years.
16 years.
Yes.
All right. The conversation continues. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.